Have you ever wondered how efficient you could possibly be if you are able to push your cognitive abilities to their limits? Have you ever wondered how many hard things you could learn in a short period of time? Well, if these questions spark your interest, there's an interesting book which I think brings out very interesting arguments about a concept which he calls deep work. And this book is Deep Work by Cal Newport. Hello everyone, welcome back to my resurrected YouTube channel. My name is Simon, a first year medical student at the University of Zambia, and in this video I'm going to be reviewing the book Deep Work by Cal Newport so that we can see if the interesting arguments that are presented in this book are something that you can use for your own personal development. So this book is actually divided into two main parts, and the first part is about the idea of deep work and the other part is about the rules. So the idea of deep work itself, the author goes into details to try to explain what deep work is and also present you with enough arguments and reasons as to why it should be a skill that you should be thinking about developing. And then he goes into the rules of operation, or rather something that I try to think of, suggestions that can be subjected to experimentations to make sure that you are able to develop this skill of deep work. This video, however, is only covering the first part of the book, and you will understand as I approach the end of this video why. The first part is an important one because you will not go through the trouble of trying to improve a skill that you are not even sure if it is valuable or if it is actually even possible to learn it in the first place. So before we even dig deep into the reasons and the arguments about this idea of deep work, we might start with the definition itself. According to the author of this book, what is deep work? According to the author of this book, he defines deep work as professional activities that can be performed in a state of distraction-free concentration that push our cognitive capabilities to their limit. These efforts create new value, improve your skill, and are hard to replicate. Now, he makes a very sharp contrast with what he terms as shallow work. So what is shallow work? So shallow work is non-cognitively demanding logistical style tasks performed while distracted. These efforts tend do not create much new value in the world and are easy to replicate. Now, the main proposition of this book in this part of the idea is that this concept of deep work actually exists. And the author goes on to give a number of examples of brilliant individuals who have excelled in their personal fields of interest and how they were able to harness this skill of deep work. Now, by now you have realized that I'm continually making the emphasis that deep work is actually a skill. This is just to show you, and actually he makes it very much clearer in the second part of this book, that deep work is not something that you can simply slip into. Actually, the ability to work deeply is a skill, and it is a skill that you have to develop gradually. And so the second part of this book is about the rules, or rather even the habits that you have to create for you to be able to get into this mode of deep work. So the main question that we have really for us as practical people is this concept that you're calling deep work, and you have cited people that have actually worked deeply and the kind of results that it has gotten. In our current generation and culture, is it even necessary? And so he provides three very interesting arguments which I think you'll find very helpful. So let's get to them. So this concept of deep work, we have got two things that we want to think about. It is the how to do it, but first, before we go to the how, it is about the why, because it is only after we understand why deep work is even a thing that we have to be thinking about that we can go to spend our time developing how we can do it. So he brings about three interesting arguments, and the first one is that deep work is valuable. So now we must be thinking, why is deep work valuable? Well, he goes on to give three main groups of people that can actually benefit from the skill of working deeply. However, for you to understand exactly how those three groups of people and how you can identify yourself to be among these three groups, let me explain something to you. So currently, all of us are going to agree that there is a rise in technology and artificial intelligence. So there are two main effects that this fact or reality brings about. This means those people who are low skilled. So for low skilled people, this actually means there is a reduction in job opportunities. Best example is, let's say for example, the only thing you could do is like balance, I don't know, in a bank or accounts and everything. And with the rise of Microsoft Excel and everything, definitely they're going to lay off a lot of people. So unless you can learn quickly how to use Microsoft Excel, then you will not be relevant, at least in that economic setup. But the other thing which is very interesting is that for those who are high skilled people, there is actually an increase in opportunities. Now, it is these high skilled people that we want to discover really what are the three main groups that they fall into. So he brings the first group is that operators, really. Operators. Okay, so let me explain on this. So for operators, with the rise of technology and artificial intelligence, a lot of people, when they hear technology, they are thinking of like maybe like phones. And really, a phone is one of those things that are made for the lay people. They are made for literally every single one. And so they are made user friendly. Anyone can use them. However, they are very complicated machines that if you are not highly skilled in operating them, you can really not work with them. I can give an example of artificial intelligence itself. I believe most of us may be acquainted with it because there are some these user-friendly lay services that it provides. For example, ChatGPT. You have got the right to have your own opinion, but I really think those people who are going to be able to use artificial intelligence very productively are those who can adapt to the way it works so that they can harness the services that it gives. So this means for those people who can only do low-skilled jobs, artificial intelligence is actually going to replace them. However, for those people who can adapt quickly and learn hard things in a short period of time, they are going to be the ones to be operating artificial intelligence, and also this is going to be an increase of job opportunities for them. The second group of people are the superstars. So what are superstars? Really, when we think about superstars, these are people that are very good in their field of work to the point that they are able to beat their peers. Now, the main concept here is not about being better than other people, but the issue here is being very skilled at the things that you do that it is very hard to ignore you. So how does technology and artificial intelligence increase your opportunities? If you are very good at doing the things that you do, you provide quality work and you provide it very consistently and at a very fast speed. This means technology and artificial intelligence can be used for your service so that you can distribute your services without boundaries. The best and simplest example I can give, let's say for example, Zoom. If you are a consultant, someone who is very knowledgeable in the things that you do, technologies like Zoom calls and everything are things that you can actually use to have clients across the board. And this means that it is actually benefiting you. Instead of you just being restricted to the people that you can actually meet physically, you are able to provide your services to people around. The third group of people that are on these high skilled workers is owners. Now, I'm not going to dig deep into this group because these are people that are able to amass a lot of capital in the sense that they are the ones who actually own the technology and everything. I'm not going to spend a lot of time with this because I think it's not very relevant for us. The main groups that I want to talk about is operators and superstars. Now, I have explained a lot about them already, but how do all of these tie to deep work? You see, when you come to deep work, because of the nature of deep work actually allows you to do two things. Number one, learn hard things. Learn hard things, and not just learn them, but learn them quickly. And the second thing that it allows you to do is produce quality work at a very high speed. So also produce quality work quickly. Now, what are the arguments, or are these just arguments or prepositions that do not have got a reasoning behind it? Well, when you look at learning hard things quickly, you will discover that there are a lot of things that seem to support that. For you to be able to learn complex skills, you must be able to work you have to be able to push your cognitive abilities to their limits, and there are a lot of things that can support this. The author of this book gives a specific argument that is quite scientific, and I'm going to explain it in the simplest way possible that everyone can understand. So the thing is, if you want to learn anything, be it a skill or really you are studying and it is knowledge for your brain, what happens is in your brain there are specific neuronal circuits that have to be fired constantly, and those are the things that are going to hold that specific skill or that piece of knowledge. Now, what happens is there are multiple, let's say, permutations of neuronal circuits that can happen. And how do these neuronal circuits become strong? They become strong if they are being fired repeatedly to the extent that it provides the necessary stimulus to myelinate them. So it's like they are sheathed with this myelin sheath, and it makes them stronger and easier to fire up. So if, let's say, for example, now, by the way, this is just an abstractive way of presenting everything. This is not exactly how it is. You might be thinking of neurons as just pathways of electrical impulses, but I also want you to think about them like processing units. So let's say, for example, in order for you to learn a certain skill, it can be music, it can be a cognitive skill, or even as you are learning to hold on to specific data, or even ways of thinking in any field that you are doing, you have to activate a pathway that goes from this point to this point, and then to this point, and then to this point. Okay, so for you to be able, you have to be able to repeatedly fire up this same circuit to make sure that it continues to be strong, so that it becomes almost automated. However, if you're doing the work to the point where you are studying or you are learning to play an instrument and you're always distracted, thinking about other things, doing other things on social media and everything, your brain is going to be firing in all sorts of directions. So this means you're going to be firing even in directions that you don't want. So there's going to be this, and then there's going to be this, to the point that the brain is now confused as to what to concentrate on. However, if you want to make sure that the neuronal circuits that you want to make sure that are strong are the ones which are being formed, you have to eliminate this ambiguity and make sure that you focus on one thing, so that by continuously firing the same neuron, by continuously firing the same neuronal circuits, this continues to be strong and strong, and the stronger it becomes, the more automated it becomes, and so you are able to learn hard things much quickly. Now, when we talk about producing quality work quickly also, we could think of productivity as an equation. And really, when you think about the nature of quality work, now I'm going to use it the way I write it. You can also check in the books the way he presents it. So when I think of quality work, for you to be able to create quality work, it is about the time that you spend working times the intensity. Now, time is an undisputed fact, because all of us at least know that if you're going to produce anything meaningful, you must spend some time on it. However, it is on the intensity that I'm worried about. Listen, the issue is that if you are to spend 10 months trying to develop a skill, and all of these you are just practicing for 1 minute and then you stop, and then you practice for 3 minutes, more or less, you're not even very focused, and then you stop, and then you might as well spend years without ever learning the skill. You will be learning, if at all, at a very slow speed, and it is very unlikely that you're going to be relevant if that is going to be the way that you're going to be doing your things. However, if you combine time and intensity, that is the time that you sit down to practice or to study or to do any form of work that is going to produce meaningful results, you really focus and intensify yourself to focus solely on that same thing, then you're going to find that your time is going to be worthwhile. And this is the only way that you're going to produce something very meaningful. Now, there are two more arguments that he presents about why you should be interested in this skill of deep learning. And I spent most of the time on the first one because I think it's the one which interested me the most. The other two that he brings about is that deep work is rare. So now, it is rare. Why is it rare? The main issue is that currently in our culture, there are a lot of things that we think are productive because they keep us busy. For example, for me, who is a content creator, I may believe that I have to have a very active social media presence in order to succeed, or have to be always collaborating with people. Now, get this correctly, I mean like in the times that I'm working. Let's say, for example, the times I want to create videos, I have to be listening to what other people are doing. There's even this concept of thinking that great ideas come in serendipity, like serendipitous, where they just come randomly because you are in somewhat of a disorganized environment, but let's not go into that. So there are these trends, and especially you will see that even with the increase in use of social media, there are very few people who spend a lot of time working on things. And because it is rare, remember, if it is rare and it produces meaningful results, this actually means that if you were to spend time developing this skill to work deeply, regardless of the things that you do, you may be able to stand out. Now, I repeat again, it is not really about the competition, but it is about harnessing your own cognitive abilities to their limits so that they can actually be appreciated for the value that they are able to bring. The last argument that he gives is that deep work is actually meaningful. Now, he uses a philosophical approach to this concept. I did not go deeply to understand the philosophical approach, because when I thought about the probability that deep work is meaningful, I tried to think about a lot about, personally for me, how I define things that are meaningful. So I'm a Christian, and for me, anything that is meaningful is that which I can do to the glory of God, because everything is futile. If I don't have to do it for the one who is everlasting, I might as well not even engage in it in the first place. So now when I think of deep work, the first thing which comes into my mind is the parable of the talent. So if the Lord was to give you an ability, let's say a talent to do anything, it can be knowledge work, it can be music, it can literally be anything, I think it is meaningful to you to dedicate your time, push your cognitive abilities to their limits, to make sure that you harness this skill and you can get out the meaningfulness of the work that you are able to provide. Now, again, this is just an argument that is mine. You are free to have yours. Before I conclude this video, I would like to mention that the author of this book actually presents this concept of deep work more of a pragmatic thing, not necessarily about morality. So it's not about, no, it is actually wrong to do shallow work. Well, there are some times of work where it will just require you to be in this shallow kind of work, which is not necessarily cognitively demanding, where you have to be responding to emails and everything. That could be your work, and that is perfectly fine. However, to think that is the only way to be busy, I think, is a misconception. And deep work, depending on the things that you do, may be actually something that you would want to learn. Now, the reason as to why I did not include the second part of the book in this video is because, well, this book is actually a big one, and remember, this is not just a theoretical book, it's a practical one. So the second part is about the rules that you can implement to make sure that you create the specific habits that are able to make you to harness this skill of deep work. Now, because it is practical, it does not make sense just go through the rules as if they are things to be memorized. However, for me, I try to think of these as suggestions that can be subjected to experimentation. So that is, I read the rule, I experiment, I reflect, I experiment again. And if I see changes and I see things, then I can go on to the next, and so on and so forth. Alright everyone, thank you for sticking around. If you enjoyed this video, remember to subscribe, like, and share this video. See you next time.